Hey guys, thanks for tuning into this Sunday school lesson, the last one of this semester in fact. We're going to be wrapping up the story of Joseph in Egypt, so that's exciting. But first, we need to talk about what we learned in last week's lesson. Joseph's brothers came to Egypt a second time, and this time they brought their youngest brother, Benjamin. Joseph told his servant to put his silver cup into Benjamin's bag and then accused Benjamin of stealing the cup. Joseph wanted to punish Benjamin by making him a slave, but Judah, one of the brothers, offered to be a slave instead of Benjamin. But what does Joseph say next? Well, that's what we'll find out in this lesson. And I want you guys to pay attention for why Joseph reacts the way he does. This lesson comes from the book of Genesis, chapter 45. Joseph's brothers had come to Egypt for a second time. As Judah and the rest of his brothers stood before him, Joseph could see that they had changed greatly. 20 years ago, Judah had convinced the others to sell Joseph as a slave to the traveling merchants. Now, he had offered to become a slave for the rest of his life in order to save Benjamin. Joseph couldn't hold back his feelings any longer. He had to tell his brothers who he was. "Have everyone else leave the room," he cried out. His Egyptian servants quickly left. Once Joseph was alone with his brothers, tears of joy ran down his cheeks. "I am Joseph," he told them. "Is my father still living?" But his brothers were so terrified that they couldn't answer him. "What will he do to us?" they thought. Joseph saw how they felt. "Brothers," he said, "come close to me." Then he went on, "Yes, I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold to Egypt, you sold into Egypt. Now don't be afraid, and don't be angry with yourselves. You see, God sent me here to Egypt for a reason. He made me a powerful ruler because he wanted me here to save your lives during this great famine. This was all part of his plan. Now hurry back to my father. Tell him how God has made me a ruler with great power in Egypt. Then bring him and your families to Egypt. I will give you one of the best parts of the country to live in, the land of Goshen. I will make sure that you have everything you need, for there are still 5 years of famine coming. Now hurry and bring my father to me." Then Joseph threw his arms around Benjamin. He kissed him. He did the same with all of his brothers. And after that, the brothers were no longer afraid. And Joseph and his brothers talked with one another for a long time. Pharaoh heard the good news about Joseph's brothers. He was happy for Joseph and told them, "Tell your brothers that I want them to live in Egypt and that we'll share with them the very best things we have." So Joseph gave his brothers carts and wagons they could use to move their families and all their possessions from Canaan to Egypt. Their possessions being things that a person owns, like toys or animals. He also gave them expensive presents and sent along some gifts for his father as well. After they left Canaan, Joseph told his brothers, "Don't argue along the way." And he's telling them this because he doesn't want them to argue or debate with each other about whose fault it is for selling Joseph into slavery. Jacob was shocked when his sons returned home and told them, "Joseph is alive. He is the ruler of all Egypt." At first, he refused to believe it, but when his sons told him everything that Joseph had said and showed him all the wagons Joseph had sent to bring them back to Egypt, Jacob knew that what they said was true. "I am convinced," Jacob said. "My son Joseph is alive. I will go and see him before I die." Alright, so let's say that there's a day when you need money because you really want to buy a new Lego set, or any other toy for that matter. I just happen to really like Legos. So if you needed to buy that Lego set, you would need money. So if you needed to borrow $10 from me, I would give you an IOU $10. An IOU is for when someone owes you something, like money, in this case, $10. But what happens if I rip up this piece of paper? See, now you owe me nothing. In our lesson today, Joseph forgave his brothers for selling him into slavery, ripping up their IOU. We have an IOU with God because we owe God every time that we sin against him. But we sin every day, and we could never pay back God for our sins. But when Jesus died on the cross, God forgave us of our sins, and he ripped up that IOU. And because we love Jesus, when someone sins against us, we too should forgive them and rip up that IOU. And if you ever find that it's hard to forgive someone, when you ever find that it's hard to forgive someone, you can always ask God to give you strength to forgive that person. That concludes this semester of Sunday school. It's kind of a weird way to end it, I know, but I hope that all of you enjoyed watching these videos, that you learned something, and that you grew in your faith towards God. Big thanks to Pastor Kale for making all of this happen, and to all of the kids, Sarah, Leah, Michael, Anna, Elijah, Noah, Leah, John, Jack, and Abe. You guys have been the best to teach. Hopefully we will see each other again soon, and until then, stay active, stay healthy, and remember that although it is hard to forgive sometimes, Jesus did it for us first, and because of that, we can rip up that IOU. Thank you for watching, and have a blessed week.